Hi, I'm Alex, your host, and this is No Code World Radio, in which I travel the world to meet the most interesting people in the no-code space. In this very first episode of the season 1 of this show, I embark on a journey across Belgium, Netherlands, and Germany. After a week in Brussels, I head to Ghent, where I will be meeting with Marie and Philippe, the co-founders of Tally.so, the no-code form builder. Let's go for the interview, and after that I will tell you a little bit more about my trip. Hi, Marie and Philippe. Thanks for taking the time to answer my questions for this podcast here in your lovely city of Ghent. So before we talk about Tali, the no-code form builder that you launched recently, or fairly recently, you will tell us a bit more of the details. Can you please tell us a little bit about yourselves? Maybe Marie first.
Yeah. So thanks for visiting us and having us on the podcast. I'm Marie, co-founder of Tali. I'm from Belgium. We live in Belgium as well at this moment. I have a background in marketing, so I worked in several companies in Belgium, bigger and smaller ones, mainly B2B marketing. And I met Philip around 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And we're partners in life as well. And I guess we started Tali
about a year
ago together.
Yeah. So I'm Philip. I'm the technical co-founder behind Tali. I'm actually originally from Bulgaria, but been living here in Ghent for about 10 years now. Yeah.
Do you do everything on the tech side of Tali?
Yeah. So all that it's code and engineering, that's me. Design, but that we do together as well. And Marie is mostly focusing on marketing,
everything else.
And everything else.
Did you work in the marketing in the tech industry or not related?
Yeah, the last company I worked for in the Pocket, it's a digital agency, so they make mobile and web applications for big companies in Belgium, mainly finance, retail. Yeah.
Okay. So let's talk about Tali. I want to know a little bit about the backstory because you started a year ago, so it has to be somehow kind of related to the situation, to the COVID situation, I guess.
Yeah.
But before that, maybe I'm very interested in hearing how you describe Tali, how you present it.
Okay. Actually, to start really from the beginning, because Tali is not the first thing that we started. I think it's around 2 years, no, even longer ago.
Yeah, something like 2 years ago.
We were traveling in Mexico, and we had the idea of Hotspot, which is our first startup. We were in Tulum, which is like the mecca of travel influencers. And at the time, there was a lot of actually bad publicity about travel influencers wanting to stay for free at hotels. And we were talking about it, I think on the beach or something. I don't know. We were brainstorming.
I remember it very clearly. It was in a coffee place. So we were having our morning coffee, I think breakfast.
Oh, yeah.
And then I was checking Twitter and I saw like this article indeed about fancy hotels or like popular hotels being bombarded by influencer requests. And we're like, oh, that's pretty cool. And it sounds like we can solve that, like by basically having sort of a filter or like a way for them to apply rather than just bombarding them with emails or Instagram DMs. And we started talking about it. Yeah.
And there were also 2 influencers in the coffee bar making pictures. And we were kind of like, oh, look at them. And then I guess the idea of Hotspot came to build some kind of marketplace for hotels and travel influencers, and they can connect. But they can also set like filters or requirements. I only want to work with people who have this amount of followers or these interests. And and so on. But at the time, I was a marketing manager at the digital agency. You were working on Delta, which was the previous startup. So it didn't really become like a concrete project. But we had the idea of just making a very simple landing page with a form. And if we could find 100 hotels that would be interested, we were gonna make it. We were gonna build the marketplace.
So a very lean startup approach.
Yeah, side project, just kind of more for fun.
Also, which was good as well. We were both busy with doing other things, so we did not have time. So we had to be like efficient with our time. Then we're like, okay, we're not going to invest like engineering, hours or marketing hours before we know that there's some interest. That's where it started.
And we needed a form, and I think we used Google Forms.
Yeah.
And we were already a bit frustrated, like, it doesn't look like the way we want it to look. And I think our landing page, I don't know, it was a Squarespace page.
Yeah.
And we somehow we had a lot of interest quite fast. Like we found the 100 hotels that were interested. But then, of course, we still had our full-time jobs. And it was only later when Delta got acquired that Philippe left the company and had some time and decided to start really building the product. And I think then by the end of the year, we went to Lanzarote for 2 weeks, and we did like a trial, like holiday and working kind of thing, which worked out quite well. And then I decided to quit my job, and because we also wanted to travel and try out the whole digital nomad thing. So then in the beginning of 2020, I think in February or something, I quit my job, and then in March we booked a plane to Bali. Was our end destination, but we never arrived there because of COVID.
It's a perfect timing to launch a travel startup.
Like worst timing ever. Also, everyone was like, "Oh, just quit your job. What's the worst thing that can happen?" But nobody talked about a pandemic.
So it's not on the bingo card.
We really made a few stupid decisions there. Well, we couldn't have known, of course.
It's arguable, right? Because it was already running the startup for a while at that point. Because Marie quit in February, but I was already working on it for a couple 6 months or something. Building the MVP and starting to onboard the first hotels and influencers.
So it was not really a jump in the wild.
Things were going in the right direction, and we kind of made a projection. Okay, by the summer of 2020, we'll be able to pay one person from the revenue that we make with that business and keep going. So we're okay, let's make the jump. And both of us work full time. And so it was in March, beginning of March, we arrived in Bangkok, and we had planned a few days to just enjoy the city, and we've been before and we really like it. So just explore a bit again. And then the news started coming in about things starting to lock up. The pandemic was actually announced, flights starting to being canceled. And at that point we were like, are we really going to go to this relatively small island without knowing if we're going to be able to come back in the next few months?
Also, I think the government of Bali said, if you pray, then you will not get COVID. And then we thought, if this is how they will approach it, it might not be the safest even more scared to go.
In terms of health system, we've seen better.
Yeah. So we decided to fly back. And then we thought, let's work a bit more on Hotspot, because
how long can it take
this whole COVID thing?
Yeah, it's I think actually also important to say that when the pandemic got announced and everything started to close, so basically by end of March, we kind of lost half of our customers for Hotspot, which was definitely tough. I think there were some that were still okay to get better, but a lot of them were closed. So we're like, okay, we have no use for this tool, which was difficult, of course, for us. And we were like, okay, we believe in the concept and it was working. So we're just going to keep on building and focus on, a few months when things get better and have like a relaunch. But few months passed.
And things were not getting better.
It was not getting better. It was,
I think the summer of 2020 showed that travel is not going to come back to normal before a while. No, probably that was the...
Right. And the summer was kind of our...
Target.
We thought by summer, after summer, things will get better.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. So
I think it was in May we started like, you know what? We're not gonna like do a full stop on Hotspot, but let's start brainstorming about other things that we can do. I think we also like kind of prove to ourselves that we can work together, which is also an important thing, and that we work well together. Like our skills are basically the perfect mashup that you need for a startup. So yeah, I think then we started brainstorming and we had a few ideas, and one of them...
Philip had built a tool called Tali before, years ago.
Oh, that's...
Yeah, well, I'll let you explain,
Yeah, it was like a weekend project. At that point, I don't remember why anymore, but I needed like this, a poll service, like to make a poll. And at that time, I don't even think that like the polls and Twitter existed and stuff like that. So I was like, I think I want to build like something super, super simple, where you just go on the page, you have like the blinking cursor, and you start just typing your question, and then all the options. So I built it over the weekend and launched it on Product Hunt. And it became the product of the day. Like, got a lot of comments, a lot of positive.
And when was that?
It was in 2014, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 2014. Yeah, and it got a lot of interest after Product Hunt. Even like got contacted by some people from Reddit who wanted to maybe integrate it within it. But I was also very naive, for me it was this weekend project. I did not have crazy big potential ideas about it. It was just
no business model or anything.
It was free. And even at the time, it's funny, but the CTO of Typeform contacted me, and they wanted to hire me because they liked Tali. It's funny how things
turn out.
We are building a form builder now.
But yeah, we needed a new idea or something else to do, because we had no clue how long COVID would last. And we're also working with 2 people full time on it. So we kind of needed to pivot and do something else. And I think by summer also we organized a fundraiser for healthcare workers, because we thought, let's do something good. And my parents work in healthcare. And so we contacted hotels in Belgium, and the idea was that everyone could make a donation, and healthcare workers could just take a day off and go have a free night in a hotel. And then we also needed a form for registrations. And we checked Typeform, but for us it was quite expensive at the time. And then I think we ended up using Google Forms again, but we were still like struggling a bit with how does it look, Google Forms, and it would be good if there's another tool. And I guess after that, all of that combined together with us also using other form tools in the past, Philip building the Tally poll a few years ago, we kind of came up with the idea of maybe there's space for something new.
Was there any influence from Notion, seeing the growth of Notion and all the buzz around it?
Yeah, definitely. We were using Notion at the time, and I think indeed also with like the original Tali, and with us wanting to build a form builder, and we're like, okay, it needs to be. We felt that there is a space between Google Forms and Typeform, which Typeform was already moving into more pricier class, and Google Forms is free but doesn't look good. So we're like, there is like this spot in between that we could try to target, and we're like, and it feels like, you know, a form builder, it's kind of boring to use mostly. So like, how can we make it like fun? All right. And what if we take like the idea of Notion and also of the original Tali, where you landed on the page and you immediately start building your PO, but in this case, the form, right? What if there is no sign up and you can immediately start building and like in a matter of seconds have something that already looks like what you had in mind. And I think with those kind of few things, we set off building Tali. And we used the name because we also felt it's like fitting for the.
I think you built the MVP. I don't know how long it took. A couple of months.
I think a couple of months, but I think after like a few weeks or a month, we already had something. Like we first focused on. It was very important for us, like how the tool feels. It was important that it feels fun, right? Like Notion, and so we spent most of the time in the beginning on like working only on the front end. So there was no like back end, no database, nothing was saved. You know, it was just like the builder.
You couldn't publish your form. You could just try it out.
And then I sent that to like a few friends and people that I knew have used forms before. And like, I wanted to show it to them and to see what they think about it. And there was a lot of feedback. Like some people were like, wow, that's really cool. Some people were like, oh, I'm confused because it's so flexible and free. So we used a lot of the feedback and like integrated it into Tali, and then eventually started working, of course, on the back end and making it into a full thing. And I think it was by September we kind of like officially launched.
Well, we didn't really launch, like we didn't have like a big public launch. I guess I started making like big lists of people that we should contact, but also not really having a network in the space, not being super familiar with like the no-code communities.
Yeah, that's what you were telling me earlier. You didn't really had in mind that you were building a no-code tool. Like you were addressing a specific problem. I mean, like the form building in your own way.
Yeah,
which is like this block approach and very, very flexible, but not necessarily having in mind that's a no-code tool.
No, I think the label of a no-code tool only came later when we started talking to people.
I guess it's people who gave you the label, no?
They actually they did.
I think indeed, as we mentioned earlier, it was more like when we built the tool, we were building it more for ourselves. So it's like startup founders or like early startups,
indie hackers,
but also like, you know, marketing people in an agency, and actually even the first idea of Tali was very, very different. How we considered the form builder was going to be there as it is now, but the way our business model was very different. We had like a totally different feature in mind, which we might still do at some point, but
which is you don't want to.
It's complicated. That's why we did not do it as well. But
we also thought like it's such a competitive space, and just creating a form builder, it's never gonna work because there's so many form builders. And we also started doing some market research, and we talk a lot about Google Forms and Typeforms, but there's a lot more, of course, that we also didn't necessarily knew yet. So we thought we needed something more like insights.
Yeah, it was like, what is our USP, right? I think the form builder, the way it is working is definitely one, and that it looks modern, and stuff like that. But we thought we needed something a lot more. And again, it was mostly thinking from a startup founder and, an agency background. You have repeating users, right? Like people that answer your forms multiple times. So we were more thinking, what if we can build kind of like this whole complicated inside. So if as a starter founder, you have like a feedback form and then another survey and whatnot, you can actually see what the users are doing.
Across forms.
More
like a database and where you can
and then
get learnings out.
Analyzing the data.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot
Some
more focus on the
reports
analyzing the responses, and actually also kind of creating a CRM.
Okay.
In a way. Yeah.
But
that sounds a lot more complicated.
Yeah. And as you can hear, it was also not very, we never really
defined it
completely.
It was kind of like if you think about Intercom in a way, and then Intercom you have users as well, and you can kind of like follow the journey that they took throughout your product. We're thinking like the same about forms. Like what if you can see how this user answered 7 on this NPS survey, and then later on they requested this feature, and maybe later on they something like that.
There's something to it, but it's not sure that people are going to be able to use it.
No,
with several forms to push to their users. So several, I mean, I don't know.
It's really
like
more from a company context as well, and not like freelancers or indie makers. But then we thought, okay, let's just start building the form builder.
Yeah, I think we had like the mock-ups and stuff like that for this whole users insights thing, and then we're like looking at it, and we couldn't like pinpoint everything, and I was like, oh my god, we are just two. If it could be cool to build this, but it's gonna take us way too long. And at that point, we were like, let's keep it simple, just launch the forms, and
let's see.
Start from that point. Yeah. It's what they always say. It's important to launch as quick as possible, especially when you're a small team, and that's what we did.
Cool. I have a question that I really like to ask to people who build tools. Do you have some unexpected use and usage of Tally? Do you have users who build forms that are very random? I don't know.
Yeah,
something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
That you didn't expect, at least. Because, as you said, it's very flexible. So,
I think in the beginning, we thought more from our own experience, or me from my experience, like you make contact forms, or you make customer satisfaction forms, things like that. Because I remember in the beginning, we were also listing up use cases on our landing page, like this is what you can use Tally for. I really had to think also about other use cases.
Yeah.
But then we also really thought that product people would use it to ask for product feedback, and that it would be more like a pop-up on a website. And which indeed. In the end, I think it's definitely not the biggest use case or what people are using it for now.
For now, indeed. But I think specific weird, so maybe, or like interesting use case, we have like a very, very wide variety of different things, but there's like steel companies that use it for various internal things. So like a bus company
from the States
that
for like
uses it
booking the hours of the drivers.
Yeah, or there's like also, but I think it will come on our blog as well, in the spotlight, a guy that uses it for creating stories.
Yeah, he helps.
You can tell more about it.
He helps people with technical storytelling. So basically, he uses Tally and he asks questions like, "What does your company do, or your product? What are the USPs?" But like really in normal language. And then he uses we have a feature answer piping, so he just mentions all the answers in a new story. So he creates your story for you based on your answers, which is something we would have never
And it's automatic, or he writes the story?
So he writes a story with a lot of blank spaces, and then he inserts the answers basically. So on your last page, you get the result.
Okay. So you get it straight away.
Yeah. And there's different scenarios. Cool. So it's all made with logic, and it's quite complicated. He really uses all the features that you can use. We interviewed him, so we're gonna share how he did it.
You should send me the link to the post, and I will add it to the notes of the podcast.
Yeah, I will. It's really cool to see how he used it. But a bit of everything: book clubs, a lot of lead generation forms. That's like a template that's been used a lot. Belgian festival that started using it.
Awards
as well. Some South Korean pets.
Yeah.
Something with pets.
We're big in South Korea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I was wondering what's your audience like? What are the big countries in your users?
Yeah.
I think France is
I think the biggest or second biggest, maybe after the States. I'm not sure. The States is first or second now. But South Korea is third.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how that happened, because France, it was maybe we saw it happening, but like the South Korean community, I think it's just Notion is very big in South Korea.
For some reason, it was the first language that was added to Notion. I don't know why. I mean, that must be a reason, but
I think that has something to do with it. And Tali definitely is Notion inspired. So I think that I guess
helped. Yeah.
I need to investigate that. Maybe there is something in South Korea about, I don't know, Notion, or just this way of building things. Or I don't know. Sometimes there is cultural reasons, that might push people towards a certain type of software.
Yeah.
I don't have any examples in mind, but I guess that might be.
Yeah, because there was not like one clear like referral source or anything. It just
I think also
started spreading, I guess.
Something that might have helped is, as Western Europeans or as Europeans, we often don't think about other languages and how they type. Like we always think, okay, the keyboard works the same way, but actually the keyboard in South Korea works in a very different way. And very early, a guy from South Korea contacted us and said like, hey, I love your tool, but actually it doesn't work very well with the Korean language, because indeed they have to like tap
combinations
or something.
Keys or something like that.
So luckily he reached out and he told us it doesn't work. So I did some Googling around, and it turns out indeed, like, in order to support the Korean language, you do have to make some specific things, and we did add it quite early, and talked back to the guy. So maybe that helped.
That helped.
Because he did say then, like, a lot of the European or American tools just don't work for us. So that can be a thing.
That's a very interesting feedback.
We supported it from almost the beginning.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about what's on your roadmap from here? And also, I'm curious to see, well, you talked a little bit about it, but how you involve the users in the product management.
Yeah. Maybe the users first. We've been talking to our users from the start. It's a bit of a cliche.
I think it might be even interesting to say, like, in the initial way, how we started, like, through Product Hunt. It can be an interesting story, I think, and because it's something others can use as well in their.
Yeah, we didn't really have a network of people to share the tool with. So we started with friends and family, and then we just started checking Product Hunt and contacting people that upvoted similar tools. So no-code tools or anything that could be related, or just profiles of people that we thought, founders or more product people, or people that might be interested in it, and just really made like a database for ourselves, and tried like every week to contact, I guess, hundreds of people with a personal message. So it took a lot of time. It was really not a scalable strategy, but I guess it worked for us to start to kind of create our own little community, and we got a quite high response rate. Sometimes I think even like 1 out of 3 or something would answer, which also gave us some validation. And then, we started our Twitter account and our own Slack channel that also started growing. And it just helped us to promote the tool, to make our own community. And I guess since then, we just kept on talking to people, try to do it on a daily basis. It's becoming more difficult. It's something we really need to try to still do. Definitely to do like outreach to new people. But that has definitely helped us also to shape the roadmap, because we got a lot of feedback. Really a lot if I think about it. So we started keeping votes and just prioritizing the roadmap according to whatever people
yourself,
asked.
or do you have a vote system? Because
It's
I think
a combination.
The roadmap is on Notion, right?
Yeah. You cannot upvote yourself yet.
But that's like conscious choice.
That's deliberate. Because we still kind of want to manage it a bit. So we actually keep track of what everyone asks in our own.
Through a form, obviously.
The feedback requests are through form. We keep track in Notion of the counts. And then it's a combination of us like grouping the features and just seeing like what would make sense to do next. What are also the ones that require a lot of effort, or what are like the quick wins? Because definitely in the beginning we wanted to ship a lot fast, so people were impressed, and every week you had a new feature.
The glide way of releasing very fast small features, but then you have people excited.
You have something to talk about and to share on social media. But of course, because it's only Philip building everything, we need to be a bit smart with time. In the beginning, there was also less support and less maintenance, so it's easier to ship faster. But now also a lot of your time goes into that, or like bug fixing. So it's a combination of what people ask and what we think should be next. In the beginning, we didn't have a pro plan as well, so we only launched like free features, and then we decided, okay, now we want to launch the pro plan.
You can add to the pro plan instead of.
So it's a bit of finding a balance in there.
But with the pro plan, it was also important to not feel like the other form builders. It was one of the USPs that we had in mind in the beginning, was like we want to have a bit more different business model where we don't want to like limit people. The tool should feel basically free to use, and the features that are in the pro plan are more like empowering you rather than, you've used 5 of this and you want to use the 6th one, so pay us. It was more okay, basically everything is free, and you want to do team collaboration, for example, which is more of an add-on, then you can upgrade.
We wanted to avoid like the annoying paywalls that you have with most of the tools. So like the forms, everything is free. It's unlimited, which is also, of course, one of our USPs to be able to grow in the very busy space. But maybe what's next on the roadmap? You can.
So we've been actually quite back and forth on that one. Again, because we do have the official the roadmap, but indeed it's changes a lot. It's not like set in stone. And it is also a lot about, again, we are a very small team of just the 2 of us, and like how can we use our time in the best way to also help the most people. And for a while, the next thing actually on our roadmap was the API. So we do want to open up our API so people can also create forms or get the responses, delete responses, everything.
I don't think there are many tools that offer that to build a form through the API.
There are use cases, so there are quite a lot of users that are asking for it.
I mean, I see the use cases, but I don't think there's a lot of tools that offers that possibility. No, can you do it through Typeform, for instance?
You can.
Okay. Well, I guess that's very advanced usage. People need to know first about APIs, how they work, but I think it's very interesting in terms of flexibility and very passionate about automation, of course. So having chance of building on the fly forms, I think could be great.
Indeed, I think a lot of people see it as well as part of their automation flow, just being able to connect it to something else.
At least in this no-code makers movement, that could totally find an audience.
But then again, a lot of people don't know what an API is.
We're working on that subject very hard because I think there's a lot of training and classes to do about that. But
yeah, indeed, I think like, for example, stuff like Integromat are kind of like making it more, presenting it more to the users, and like it becomes more of a thing.
Some part of it, but you still need to understand the basic concept of endpoints, parameters, authentication, and things like that, which I think everybody in a way should learn how to do. I think it's more important, to be honest, to learn those things than to learn how to code, really. Also because I'm very passionate about no code, but those things I don't think they're code. Or understanding JSON, for instance, the formatting and all this. Everyone needs to understand that because that's the basics of the internet now. When I say everyone who has, to work in this space, but more than, learn. I mean, that's the way you can use Integromat, I think, very well.
True.
And
true. Yeah. So I think when it comes to the roadmap, API is definitely a big item on it.
That must be quite a lot of work now.
It is quite work intensive, and you open it up, so of course you can change it, but it's like more difficult, so you want to do it right. Because of course if you change it, people are stuck on older versions. It's not perfect. So it does require some work. We do already have an internal API that we use with our own tool, of course, with the builder. But if you want to open it up, it needs to be cleaned up. It needs to be documented. So it does require a lot of work. And then other items on the roadmap. We do have something it's not on the roadmap yet. It's something cool that we think it's cool that we want to build in the coming months, or like, I don't know, next year, depending when we get to it. Mm-hmm. Which is very similar to the API, and we were even thinking about like making it into a one release, which kind of allows you to do API things with no code in a way. Because a big problem, or big thing why people also want to use the API is because they want their form to be dynamic, right? Mm-hmm. They want to bring in their data into the form or
in the answers, especially.
Yeah. And that's currently not possible without an API in actually none of the form builders.
None of the tools that do that. I mean, when I say answer the options, for instance, in the list of options and things like that to be passed through the parameters or things like that. Yeah.
Exactly. And we do think that we have a cool thing in mind for that use case, which will also allow for a lot of other cool use cases, and people will be able to build more funkier stuff using forms, which is also one of the reasons why we did not build the upvoting thing, because actually we believe we can build it using Tali.
Okay.
But we'll see.
There's a lot. I see also a lot of ideas and
a lot of. But I think one of the first next things is also more customization.
Yeah,
like sounds maybe simple, but now you can change some colors and add a cover image, but that's it. Yeah. And it's only when you're Tali Pro user and you use custom domains, you can do like some code injection and change styles, but there's no like simple way of changing the font or adding columns or a grid, for example, background colors, anything you like. So I think that will be the next thing we will be working on to make it really look like your own.
Yeah. No, I think, but it's interesting because, the custom domain and the CSS script injection, that's something that misses to Notion. So there are tools that were built like super.so and all this. And I think it's interesting. I don't know, maybe I'm just, but that you probably saw that missing in Notion, and you can integrate it. I mean, it's not related to Notion, but in terms of product management, you can anticipate this and not, having people building things around Tally, for instance, and put it directly, because you can see that it's a big thing on Notion. It's very important. Yeah. And I remember actually seeing a tweet from Louis, who was asking, because he wanted to build a website with Tally, because if I have a domain, and even better with some CSS, then I can just make a website.
Yeah.
What do you think about Type Dream?
Yeah, I think
Looks very
I've tried it.
promising, I think.
That looks cool. Yeah, it looks cool. I think definitely there is a rise of the the Notion
Just start
builders.
typing kind of approach.
Indeed.
So in that way, it's very similar. I think Tali will, embed very well as well with Type Dream.
I think they use a Tally, no? I think for one of their form, which kind of makes sense. I think that was kind of cool to see like this.
That was cool to see that. That's actually a really cool thing. Like since we launched on Product Hunt, there's sometimes like other cool companies that use Tally. And then we're always like, oh, wow, they use Tally. Yeah. That's so cool.
No, but I really like that. It makes sense, to kind of use the tools that are in the same, generation of tools and spirit. And I think we can see that, I really study kind of a lot the tools, and I like this, we call it the no-code game in a way, and really, and I think it's quite fascinating.
It's also because people are also quite supportive. Like we talked to Mariam from Softer, for example.
Which everyone will meet them soon, hopefully.
Yeah, cool.
In a few weeks.
In Germany.
Yeah.
And that's really nice because they kind of had a similar journey. They're also a couple. Also started bootstrapping. In the end, now they raised money. But people are really always there to help, which also sounds a bit cheesy, but it's really the case. And I think for us, the whole no-code community, it has been a really good way of getting feedback and growing Tally, because people also really take the time to give the feedback, which is not always not the case in every community.
Yeah, probably not.
So that has definitely helped us a lot.
It's still small, right? It's not like SaaS is like this huge label and encompasses a lot of things. No code is still growing. It's still like not the beginning, but it's definitely not like.
I think it's still in 10 years we will see it like this is still the beginning. I think because I talk about no code all day, but I'm also conscious that this is very tiny, small movement in some part of the internet, I think.
When did you start, actually?
Sorry?
When did you start?
We started 2 years ago.
Okay. So quite recently.
Yeah, so this is quite recent. And we saw the growing of the French community and of our own company. We're also a small company, just 2%. But in France, it basically started 2 years ago. But then in the US, it was maybe, 2 years before that, depending how you decide when the code was born. But it's still small. It's new. It's small. Yeah. But because of that, I think it's also people are extremely supportive of each other, of the projects. Right. I think it can be also, there might be also a bad way of that because trends also come and go. So some tools can be very popular at one point, but then the focus will go to the next one, which this I don't really like. But this exists in the code. JavaScript framework that's very trendy, but then 2 years later, it's another one.
True.
But then tools like Zapier and Webflow have been around for more than 10 years.
It's true.
And they're still very hip and happening right now.
That's true. Maybe even more now, right? Because indeed, like the last few years, all these, like 5 years ago or like 10 years ago, all these tools were built, but they were like, standalone silos. And now the cool thing is that they talk to each other. That what enables no code, in my opinion.
Exactly.
And
I think tools like Webflow, it took them a long time to become what they are now. But our bubble is the same. Honestly, for the first 5 years, it was usable. It was impressive. But it's just, for us at least, it's one of the reasons we decided to go into this space and to train people about using those tools. So, those tools are mature. They can be used to launch companies, to do really real stuff. Before that, it was, it's new. You need a long time to...
but just indeed, I guess the important part of that as well is like it's new thing. And there's a lot of things that you can do, but people need to be educated that it's possible. People don't know, right?
And so talking about community, so we'll arrive on the end of this episode. I will take the chance to ask you a little questions about Ghent and Belgium. What can you tell us about the local community? Is there Do you have users in Belgium or no code in general? Let's say.
We have users in Belgium, I guess, just because we are from Belgium, and we started with friends and family, and we've also both worked in more like digital product companies. So our friends are also, some of them are potential users. So companies we've worked at started using Tali, which was really cool to see. So I think from that point, we didn't really do any big launch or PR in Belgium. It just kind of spread because of the people we know.
But would you do it? Would that make sense? Or, I mean, in the world now, especially after COVID, everything is so international. I mean, you could be an American company, or you could be...
It doesn't really matter. Yeah. That's a good question. I think we should maybe do it because sometimes people contact us and they're like, oh, you're from Belgium. And there's like these, for example, digital marketing Facebook group that I'm in with only Belgian people. And if you recommend a tool that is made by Belgian people, somehow it's still more relatable. I guess also for like press, like we've been interviewed for the newspaper. It's like stupid things, but it does help to
of course,
spread the word. So I think just to use the nationality thing might help just to get more users here. But until now, we really haven't focused on it, just because the organic growth, like in France, went a lot faster than here. So I think if we would do something, we should maybe focus even more on France, and can we make maybe some French content and things like that.
That's something we can talk about after.
Yeah. I think that for us would be a lot more valuable than doing something in Flemish. It's a very small market as well, of course.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We're talking about Belgium, but then you're here in Ghent, which is in the Flanders Flemish part. So it's another division, different language. Well, I guess everyone here speaks English. No, or
most of the people do.
Which wouldn't be the case in Wallonia. I don't know if you say in English. Wallonia,
Yeah, you say Wallonia, indeed. Yeah.
The southern part, the French part of Belgium, or French-speaking.
French-speaking,
yeah. But we also notice a lot of people, maybe because we are part of the no-code France community, talk French. Which, I mean, I speak French, but it's actually really bad at the moment, my French.
Enough to write and be part of the Slack, which is very cool.
Yeah. So I try to, and because we as a kid, if you go to school in Belgium, you learn French. So it's part of the lessons. So of course we understand a lot, but to really like explain the product very well, that's not that easy. So that's why I mostly switched to to English. But I don't remember what I was saying actually.
Belgium community.
But the no-code community, it's something. Even if it would exist, we don't really know about it. And I guess if it exists, we would know about it. There's some companies, smaller agencies that are starting to pop up, also more like freelancers that are, I guess, will become more like no-code agencies or the beginning of it. There's more people in Brussels or French-speaking no-coders, so it's still quite very small.
And just to focus on Ghent a little bit to end, because you were telling me before we started that it's quite a tech city.
Yeah.
Because of the universities and some of the companies. If you want, tell me a little bit just about that.
Yeah. So I think it kind of starts from Netlock, which was the big company. I think it started about 15 years ago, or probably even more now.
Does it still exist?
No.
It still exists. The company exists. The product not anymore. So the company behind Netlock, actually with the rise of Facebook, things had to change. So Facebook was becoming too big and they had to find a new focus. So there was a pivot in there. And they started doing dating, actually. So they created this website called 2, and that got sold to the American company Match.com, which
they bought a lot of dating apps.
Yeah, they're basically they have the monopoly on dating. So they also own Tinder.
Yeah, they own pretty much everything, I think.
Indeed. So now the company still continues. The founders left, but a lot of the people from back in the day are still there and like working on the new stuff. They have a new app called Hablo now, which helps you talk to people over the world, so you can speak your own language and the other person can speak your own language, and they do like a live translation.
Okay.
So they're building cool stuff and more like experimenting with social and meeting new people, etc.
Okay. And so you were saying because there was this big company, a lot of people afterwards, like you, started other companies, but a lot of people stayed in Ghent.
Yeah, I think a lot of people stayed in Ghent. The company back in the day was like more than 100 people. So definitely a lot of talented people. After the whole netlock was gone and the new transition to dating, some people left, some people had to be fired as well. So people started new things. And the company where Marie worked at was also started with some ex-netlock people. Those guys also then started a new company, which is now...
It's like a sales enablement tool, which became a quite big SaaS company.
I guess it's the biggest startup now in Ghent.
You had Rialo.
We had Rialo and Delta as well was all
Delta
started.
Delta is in a cryptocurrency portfolio tracker. And Rialo is like an... how do you call
real
it?
estate
Real estate
portal.
So there's quite a lot of things. So I can imagine
a lot of different ones. Yeah.
During pre-COVID time, maybe there was some meetups, some things like that in the city.
There is some, but
I mean, tech in general. I mean,
there's meetup groups. There's a quite big UX meetup group from Ghent.
Mm-hmm.
There's actually, the meetup scene was quite big. There were quite a lot of events before COVID, but you see them struggling to organize it remote.
No, I don't think that works.
Because it's more of a casual thing.
Yeah, and it's local thing.
It's local, and it was always hosted in one of the tech companies, and people know each other. They stay around for a beer.
Yeah,
it's more of it's not really an official event. It's more like talking and catching up. And that became difficult, of course, last year. So I guess that's why it's a bit less now. But a lot of companies organize them also because it's interesting to attract new people and
sometimes you can hire.
So it's definitely it was a thing, and I guess it will come back as well.
I hope so. And maybe there will be no-code meetups and things like that.
Yeah, hopefully
that would be cool.
Just to conclude, one last question to each of you. Would you have a good tip or something to share about Ghent, for a potential visitor, someone who would come, something that you would tell your friends or to come visit?
Can
be general.
Lots of things. Maybe the area where we live, it's the street itself, it's like not the most popular area, but there's a very big upcoming place next to it.
Okay.
It's called Dock Noord, and you have actually quite some tech companies are located there. There's new bars and restaurants and shops.
Okay. I was wondering when I was walking around last night, I was mostly in the center, I just took the chance to see all but where was the up and coming area, because there always was one.
Yeah.
And I was wondering because I saw that you were living quite north, so is it around there? But
it's around here. We'll show you.
Okay.
We'll show you afterwards. So that's, I guess, something I would recommend.
Yeah, and maybe I don't know if in terms of bars or restaurants, if that's interesting to say as well. But also
from a local perspective, I think everything is interesting because everything is on the internet now, except the good thing that the people local do. It is sometimes, but not.
Definitely.
I think our, go-to places we go a lot to Amigo, which is also in the Dock North area, and it's like a restaurant with a more Mexican
bit of everything.
food.
But the cool thing, it's also founded by a couple of young guys that organized a lot of different things. And in the past, they organized like pop-up parties, but in old factories that were gonna be teared down.
Okay.
So it was always very temporary. Then they started this bar as well, so it's always fun to support those guys as well. I think if you're looking for burgers and cocktails, you need to go to Uncle Babe's. That's like the best place.
Okay, perfect.
Before we had a baby, you could find us there every Friday. Now a bit less.
Sipping on a whiskey sour.
What else?
I will have to look all those addresses and put them in the notes.
Yeah.
People.
We'll share them with you.
Cool. Well, that's already quite a lot, I think, for people. Perfect. Well, thank you very much for this.
You're welcome.
And we'll be in touch and follow the Tally adventure and maybe Hotspot Earth at some point one day. We'll also.
Who knows?
Yeah, very much, because that would be a good sign. That would mean we can again travel and that
Looking
travel
forward.
influencers can also share stuff with us. So. That would be interesting. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thanks so much for having us.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for listening to this conversation until the end. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I found Mary and Philip super inspiring in their journey, and just made me love Tali even more. They were also super kind and took me to Amigo for lunch, the place that they recommended in the conversation. I will put the address in the show notes, of course. Definitely go there if you're in Ghent. It was really cool, and also the opportunity to see the area around. It was a short time in Ghent, but I'm very happy that I had a reason to go there. I'm now in the train to Amsterdam, where I haven't been in a while. Super excited to meet all friends there, and also the next guest of the podcast. It's Vincent, who co-founded the no-code agency Ideable, and it's going to be super interesting. Don't hesitate to write me on Twitter and to let me know what you thought about the episode. I'd love to have some feedbacks. Bye, and see you in the next episode.